Okay, you can hear me? Yes? Okay. So, dear colleagues, I'm delighted to be here. My name is Heiðar Lind Hansson, and I am the chair of the National Committee of Blue Shield Iceland. I work at the National Archives of Iceland, where I'm a head of a unit that is responsible for acquisitions of public archives, and also has the duty of conducting inspection how government authorities do their archiving, basically. So, but my talk here, my presentation is about the response in Iceland after the so-called Reykjanes eruptions. We started to call it the Reykjanes eruptions. Okay, so next slide, please. Thank you. Just a quick overview of my presentation. I will talk about what's the nature of the Reykjanes eruptions. I will talk about the little town of Grindavík, which is on this area and has been evacuated. I'll be talking about the status of emergency planning in the area when the disaster happened, and of course talk about the response made and also some lessons learned. But first of all, if you Google Iceland and talk about Iceland in tourism terms, you will probably see the words Iceland is the land of ice and fire. And there is a big truth to it. We have a buffet of everything you want to experience, from earthquakes, volcanic eruptions, floods, debris flow, avalanches, landslide, etc., etc. So, in essence, Iceland is an active area of land due to its geology. It's a relatively young land in terms of geology, so it's a very active land. And this, of course, defies preservation and protection of cultural properties and heritage. And this photo here is on a postcard from the early 20th century for the 10 tourists that came in 1910 to send abroad, or 1920. It illustrates the volcanic eruption in the Katla volcano in 1918. Which is next to the infamous Eyjafjallajökull volcano, which halted air traffic in Europe, as some of you might have experienced. So, in general terms, the response in Iceland, at least from the government perspective, is centralized on rescuing people and protecting infrastructure, and I hear from today that is the kind of the threat everywhere. Okay, it is controlled by the civil protection and emergency management, and in various regions, the local district commissioner in the police has the authority to close areas. So it's a dialogue between those two government entities. And in terms of Reykjanes, at least for the area as a whole, there was no plan in place for salvaging cultural heritage. No, nothing. It was not on the list. So that's the status. And the photo here is from Grindavík after when the earthquakes began and the volcanic eruptions began. You can see how the crevice opened in the middle of the indoor football hall where kids were generally practicing football. So that's the situation there. But Reykjanes eruptions, they began in March 2021, and they are ongoing. The Reykjanes is an active volcano system which erupted last in the 13th century, and that eruption period lasted for 30 years. And since 2021, we had 9 eruptions in the area, and the last finished 4 days ago. And currently, the Earth is I don't know the geological term for it, but the clock is ticking for the next eruptions. And according to scientists, this will probably be the status for a number of years, maybe decades. So we're looking at maybe 50 years or 100 years or maybe 10 years. And I forgot in the first slide to mention that this is the Reykjanes Peninsula in Iceland. The international airport is here. And I guess now the 75% of the population live in the capital area here. So it's basically when an eruption occurs, I can look out my living room window and the sky is red. Okay? Just a brief on the town of Grindavík. The area, the town of Grindavík is a fishing town with 3,000 people. It has no accredited museum, but however, there are a number of statues and monuments there and paintings inside the municipal institutions. There's an active local heritage and historical society. But in the area, is rich with all kinds of archaeological sites from earlier times. And after the first volcanic eruption began in 2021, the Cultural Heritage Agency of Iceland, they conducted a survey on archaeological sites in the area and kind of documented many sites that were known about but hadn't been documented. So that was a response from them, especially just to have it on a map where these sites are. And as you might see from this map here, all the yellow dots are some sites, and the red ones too. The red ones, they are they are under a certain regime of protection. And here is this red area here was the first active volcano, and the lava flow is right here. So basically you can't stop a lava flow, but you at least have some knowledge of those sites. So that was their response. And they also listed buildings in the town of Grindavík, which concerned some of architectural heritage. Next slide, please. Okay. So in November 2023, there was a shift in the movement of the magma chamber underneath the ground. I don't know how this works, but somehow the magma chamber changed its course and moved under the town of Grindavík. And you can see the line here is the stream of the magma chamber, and here is the town. So the red area is an extreme hazardous area. And when this happened, the town was evacuated immediately and has been evacuated since. And it is a question that remains unanswered for at least a few years to come, if the town will ever see itself there again. But we'll see what happens in future. Next slide, please. One of the responses that was done in the days after the evacuation, what happened when the evacuation was enforced was that there was this earthquakes underneath the town. So a volcanic eruption was imminent. But it did not happen right away, because the scientists didn't know where the magma would come up, or where the volcano would be the ground zero of the volcano. But we, at least at the National Archives, we began preparation in helping the town of Grindavík to move their archives. They had not delivered any records, paper records, to the National Archives, but they had a record manager who had been preparing for 2 years of delivering. So we made efforts, and with in the cooperation with Grindavik municipal authorities, we went there in a short time window, a few days after the evacuation, and moved the whole holdings to the National Archives. And basically there we managed to put all the town's history and records into a safe place. But what I want to highlight here is in this situation, we had no plan to follow. We had to improvise while in those days. And we have know-how at the National Archives on how to move collections, especially paper records. So we have a lot of knowledge about that. We had to improvise. But the key thing in getting the police commissioner to allow us to come was the Archive Act law in Iceland, which is very direct and clear on who is responsible for protecting the archives. So that's the mayor of Grindavik, and he, according to the law, he is personally responsible of protecting the archives from, well, in the law, illegal destruction, which is a volcano eruption happens. It's an illegal destruction in lawful terms. But it was on the initiative of the mayor that we were allowed to go into the area and save it. So the law helped a lot there. And in total, we managed to move 150 shelf meters of paper records. So the history of the area is protected. So next slide, please. A few days after this mission was executed, there was the Ministry of Culture and Business Affairs, so culture and business are in the same ministry at this moment in Iceland, which is interesting. But on her behalf, there was an organized effort to move paintings from the town, both owned by the municipality, but also in the private collections that were known about. So, and this was prepared with, in dialogue with the National Museum of Iceland and the National Gallery of Iceland. So, and there's another photo of one street in Grindavik, just to give you a picture of how the town looks like after this earthquake. So next slide, please. So, few lessons from this experience. We now know there has to be, well, at least a response for salvaging cultural heritage must be a priority at some point in disaster response, as we have discussed today. And after this experience, I feel that Icelandic authorities are very interested. We are a population of about 350,000, 70,000 now, I don't know the current number. We have a very small government, at least in manpower. So the Icelanders tend to be like a Swiss army knife. We don't want to be specialists in everything because we have to, we're so few. So when I talk to the government, they always are interested in doing something, but they lack the time to do it. So, but they are interested, and we have a meeting with them after our trip here. Who is to respond must be also clear, and how. So it works into how we plan, okay? And it has to be in a dialogue with local authorities or local jurisdictions, with the police, and of course the civil response. I don't know the acronym, CPMs. And we will, of course, Blue Shield Iceland will take part of that, or at least try to lobby for it as we can. But I will talk about our status in the National Committee on Thursday, but I will tell you now that our committee is 10 years old, and just 3 years ago, Iceland ratified the Hague Convention and its second protocol. So we've just reached that stage, and we want to use this experience to further the whole mission, so to speak, in Iceland. Okay.
Thank you very much. In particular set of circumstances, which I wouldn't wish on anybody, but are there any questions? Okay, so we have a microphone.
Yeah.
Hello. Good morning. My question is quite easy. Is your Minister of Culture really named Minister of Culture and Business Affairs?
Yes.
Yes. And now comes the second one. What do you sell? Usually you have Minister of Culture and Heritage. Minister of I don't know. We can have a workshop about Minister of Cultures.
I think I think the answer is that when the last government was formed, we have election next year. They found that culture and tourism are on the same, are the different side on the same coin. So I guess that's the reason.
Okay.
But our minister, at least in my experience, he's interested in the subject, and it is she was the current minister in 2021 when the Hague Convention was.
And Minister of Culture and Tourism was too easy, or something. Thank you very much. I'll pass the microphone to.
Thank you very much. Super interesting. As Alina was just saying, that you and I have to sit next to each other tonight, because, man-made conflicts and disasters and natural disasters and how we react to it. It's very impressive that you mentioned the city was evacuated in 2 hours. The archives were evacuated in 2 hours. And, this correspondence between different institutions. For me, this is beyond a dream, because this actually reflects that there is already, like the archives were already in a good situation and they were already put in a state ready to be evacuated, that the institutions are in good relation, with each other, they coordinate with each other. While, for example, where I come from, if I do any project for the DGA, the minister would stop it, or the head of the DGA would, hinder for some reason, or some. So I think here, and what I want to say is that I think we should put more work into policies. We fund a lot of projects on the ground, and we help people on the ground, which is extremely important and very important. But I think as well there should be investment and thinking on policies level in order to get to get to the smooth operation. What you mentioned, you don't need an emergency plan, you have one. Do you realize that? You already have an emergency plan. Of course it can be better, it can be enhanced, but you have what is the aim of an emergency plan? Is to evacuate and to preserve and to conserve all of this history. I was just reflecting. I was jealous.
Okay. Well, yeah.
Another question, so you can answer both. No, I was really admired about the evacuation. You know that we have volcanoes active in Italy, and a city with millions of people just being around the volcano in Sicily, in Campania, and so on. I have correctly understood. So the government, the army, evacuated the 3,000 people immediately, but now it's a ghost city, presided by the army or the police forces, just to avoid peeling or something like that. And you can enter only under the permission of the police or the army to do what the cultural heritage activities or anything else. But still there is also other problem when you evacuated such a large community. All the services, they cannot stop. Otherwise, in the future, they never be recovered. Anyway, just if you say a few words about it, because it's quite interesting, it's quite courageous and quite effective. Compliments.
Well, thank you for your feedback. First, on your feedback, I guess why it was so easy is because we are small, and in our culture we have these formalities, but there is a number of what shall I say, informal bylaws of how you interact or communicate. We have a very informal system there. If you talk to a person in Iceland, if I talk to someone, we will in 5 minutes know a person that both of us know. So when a disaster, we have a number of incidents like that in our history, where a disaster happens, we can manage to do very much things in short time. One example, in the south of Iceland, there is this island of Vestmannaeyjar. There are 5,000 people living there. There was an eruption that began there in 1973 in the town, and it was evacuated in no time. So all the shipping fleet was in harbor at that moment, which was a lucky situation, and the town was immediately evacuated. 6 months after the population returned again and began life. We talked more about it during dinner tonight, but on your comments there, some people had difficulties in finding a shelter, but there was, I think there were open shelters in elementary school, in the nearby towns, region. People found their shelter at their relatives' home in Reykjanes area, but we managed somehow to provide things for the population there. And there was also some period of time that people were trying to find some solutions. In the weeks after the incident, people thought they were coming back, but shortly in the beginning of this year, in March, they realized that they were not coming back maybe for next year. So what has happened is that the state implemented a plan to buy up houses to relieve the people so they can carry on with their life wherever they want. And that's an ongoing process, but we still have yet to see whether the municipality will remain or the town will become truly a ghost town. So,
yeah. Did they ever, after that, I'm not sure, I'm sorry if you already told, came back for the rest of the assets? I know.
The people
with a plan, of course, with the authorities and so on. Because evacuating in 2 hours means grab and run, something like this. But
yes.
After that, if the danger is normal or is under control somehow, at least for them to be easier for the rest of our memories, for the rest of our, not necessarily the goods, but to come back.
So I didn't quite get the question, but...
After evacuating the town,
yes,
and sheltering the people in other places, if there is any possibility, if they came back for getting other assets, other goods, other things that they left behind.
Yeah, people had the opportunity to get their belongings, especially if they had decided to move. They could basically get all their belongings, but it has yet to be researched, maybe in a few years to come, what people took with them within this 2-hour period, because that's a lesson for us to know what do you valuable. And people were taking with them family photographs, all kinds of the watch of the grandfather, paintings, etc. Yeah, that would be interesting to learn more about that.
That is the first that most probably you'll take with it. After that, why not to come back with the help of authorities to get other things?
Yeah.
even if we're talking about sustainability, why not empty the houses and so on to move on if that's the end of the town? If there are any other questions?
Thank you. I just had a question. You were saying pointing to the map and saying, you know, volcano is here, airport is here, capital city is here, and it's all kind of within this small area. I was just wondering, when you're assessing where is safe to bring things, how far away is far enough away? And is there any concern that the volcanic threat might be present in the bigger population areas where you've now stored everything?
So the Icelandic Met Office, they are responsible for evaluating the danger at every time, and as far as I know, they have determined that the danger area is not at the capital region yet, but there is a lava bed inside the capital area, so they are. At least in what I see, they're monitoring the process very closely.
And is there a plan in place, or would that be something that you guys would be working on now in case?
Well, we have at least inside. I know that there is work done on various places in Icelandic society, in the museum council, at least. In my national archive, we are doing things, and we are changing how we talk to our government agencies about that. So, but the threat is there. So it is playing now into where people are buying their homes. They're aiming at maybe the western part of the country, which is a kind of the most dead nature. There is no volcano there, activity. So it will affect the population for a period of time, this event. But if a volcanic eruption will begin in Reykjanes, I will just go to my parents' home, I guess. It's in a town in West Iceland. See what happens. Yeah. Okay.
Any other questions? No? Okay, thank you very much indeed. Okay, we have nearly made it to the end. Thank you very much for your stamina and your interest and everything else.